This time, I would like to turn today's program over to Darren Cunningham with Informatica. Darren, you may begin.
To another Informatica Cloud webinar. This is one we're really excited about. We've got a great group of speakers with some real deep information for manufacturing, as well as some focus on Salesforce.com adoption and best practices. So, with that, I'm just going to dive right in and introduce our speakers. Anne-Marie Wolfel from Uponor. We've got Steve Annenfeld from Ethereos. Myself, who's providing a quick intro to Informatica Cloud and a kind of moderating the discussion. And we have Mark Murray joining us to really dive in and show you Informatica Cloud in action. So, a packed agenda. I do want to let you know we will be taking questions as we go along for those of you watching today live. The recording will also be available. But we'll take questions through the chat panels and try to make this as interactive as we can. So with that, let's dive in. So our agenda, as I mentioned, we'll try to provide a quick introduction to some of the challenges we're seeing specifically in the manufacturing sector around integration and the opportunities for software as a service and Salesforce.com specifically. We'll talk about what's going on over at Uponor and what they've been doing with Salesforce and Informatica integration as well. And then our friends at Ethereos will be taking us through some best practices. So I want to hand over to you, Steve, to talk about some of the challenges you're seeing every day as you go out and work with your clients in manufacturing.
Aaron? Yeah, so we just want to share some of the things that we see out there. Ethereos, we are a service integration partner of Salesforce and platform experts. And we cross the sales, the service, and the custom cloud quite a bit. And in manufacturing specifically, your ERP systems, of course, contain usually your master files, whether those are the customer file master, the order master, the pricing master. A lot of information on all that is housed in your ERP. And that becomes a challenge for those folks to bring that information across, to get it to the appropriate folks, whether they are on your customer service side, whether they're on your sales side, or even out all the way to your customers themselves from a support portal type of aspect. So that's one of the primary things, and one of the things that we're obviously trying to address here today and make sure everybody understands that those things can be handled effectively. The other things that we find out there in the space, obviously, is from an ERP, usually in a manufacturing, it's a global world, and so that always poses some problems with both currency and multiple languages need to be used. And across that kind of gets us to that next piece that's out there with regards to ERPs. Some ERPs are brought up and they're brought in via acquisition, or they're a department-based ERP, or they're a regional-based ERP. So how do you even get some of that information being spread around the world and following the sun in that environment? And how do we obviously follow that sun, get that up into the platform like Salesforce.com, make that native and available to all the right people at the right times. So, the final thing is really the big problem is, we want to get that information out all the way to our customers. We want to be innovative. We want to make sure that they are able to see what our products are to them, and a lot of that refers to that high volume and that interface on that portal. How do we do that? How does the platform handle that? How does that information go from a portal request all the way to the ERP and then back through that system? So those are primary challenges that I think the manufacturing customers that we deal with, they face all the time. They're going to hit the questions. They're going to need to have a strategy for these, and they're going to need to find some way to provide an answer for their customers.
Great. Well, that's a great overview. I wanted to share how we think similarly at Informatica. Really, I think I don't probably to spend too much time on the fact that the cloud is here, the cloud is real, and for many IT organizations, they're really moving towards a cloud-first mindset. For acquisitions in particular, for new applications, new platforms, increasingly IT has to justify why wouldn't it be a cloud versus only a few years ago when there's still skepticism and it was more early adopters. So we're in Informatica a real reality that it's not really either or, it's going to be a both for a long time. It's really a hybrid IT organization and a hybrid IT world we're living within. And one of our customers actually was quoted recently in the Wall Street Journal, and I like this quote where he said, we used to have the luxury of thinking about our four walls. So it's not an option any longer, and this is why integration has become such a top of mind, a priority, and really a critical enabler of overall cloud adoption and cloud success. So let me just spend a few minutes on some of the typical use cases that we see at Informatica, and then I'll hand it over to Anne-Marie to talk about how they've approached this challenge and both challenge and opportunity at Uponor. So first of all, we work with customers all day long and solving this problem, and the use cases are fairly consistent. Main one is, of course, getting data into a cloud application, so loading data, migrating data, figuring out, your overall strategy of moving from legacy systems to cloud-based systems like Salesforce. The second is really what you see here on this slide, and really the primary use case, which is really more of an application integration use case. You really need to keep your new applications, your cloud-based systems, and often your front office systems synchronous with your back office. So, a process synchronization, whether it's customer master, product master, bringing in orders from one to the other, opportunity to order is a very common use case. So these are some of the primary scenarios we work with Salesforce customers on every day with Informatica Cloud. And some of the benefits, Steve sort of highlighted as well, but I'll just run a couple. A primary goal here for any organization moving to Salesforce is going to be about giving your reps that single view. Make sure that your reps are using Salesforce, they're adopting it, and they're getting as much value as possible from the investment that you've made. And really, when it comes to CRM in particular, but it's also relevant for any Force.com application, is making sure you deliver timely, relevant, and accurate, up-to-date information to your users. Right? So if Salesforce only has some of the information they need to do their jobs, then the adoption is going to be poor. The ultimate value is not going to be there. So if you have reps keying data into multiple systems or having to go to multiple systems to get the information they need, you're really not thinking through. You haven't really addressed some of the integration challenges and opportunities. So fulfilling orders, accelerating cash flows, quoting correct prices, and ultimately maximizing revenue, it all boils down to getting that single view and keeping reps highly productive and maximizing the Salesforce ROI. Quick summary and introduction to Informatica Cloud before I hand it over to Anne-Marie. Our focus, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Informatica, Informatica is a publicly traded company. We've been in business for over 15 years. Our sole mission is really about data integration. It's about helping you maximize the return on your data, whether it's getting more value from your data or reducing the cost of your data. And Informatica Cloud has been very, very focused for the last 5 years on really along with Salesforce as our primary partner and simplify the problem. So really simplifying the typical complexity of an integration tool, delivering as a cloud-based service, multi-tenant, on-demand. So with that, rapid deployment is critical, and then ultimately unifying with our overall Informatica platform. So we are very proud of the fact that we've been recognized 4 years in a row as the #1 from the App Exchange for Salesforce customers in terms of reviews, that the Salesforce customers provide, and that's been something we really like to hold up. Is really our customer success. And that actually, it's a good, I think, launching pad for you, Anne-Marie, to take us through how you approach the challenge, opportunity, and what you're doing with Informatica Cloud over at Uponor.
I think so too. Thank you so very much. I think I'll be able to touch on all the points that you just made. Hello everyone, I'm Anne-Marie Wolfel. I'm the CRM developer here at Uponor. I've been working with Salesforce since our company's implementation about 4 years ago. Uponor, a little background about our company, operates in 30 countries. Our headquarters is in Helsinki, Finland, hence the name Uponor. We employ over 3,000 people overwide. Our North America division here manufactures and distributes PEX-A plastic tubing, which is used in radiant heating, cooling, plumbing, fire safety applications, and we install those applications both in the residential and the commercial markets. Uponor in North America here currently have 90 Salesforce users. Along with the standard sales applications in Salesforce, we have built 6 custom objects and have plans to develop 3 more custom objects this year. We decided early in our Salesforce implementation that we needed to designate our Oracle EBS product master as our product database of record. It also became really clear that using that item database within Salesforce was imperative not only to our quoting processes for our controls products, but in forecasting and now in campaigning product initiatives. We initially used CastIron to integrate our Oracle Customer Rewards Program and forecasting data into Salesforce. In our CastIron implementation, it became clear that what was an extremely robust application, the IBM acquisition of CastIron made, I don't know how to say this kind of tactfully, but it was the most customer service experience that really we've had in a long time. Adding new orchestrations into CastIron was very complicated. It was very difficult to get advice from the IBM CastIron folks. It was difficult to solve server orchestration problems. We had trouble really working through the application's kind of quirky setup processes. We came time to renew our service contracts and upgrade our appliances. I was really surprised to find that IBM kind of ignored us and passed us on through various service and sales departments. Unbelievably, probably as you hear this story, and even to us to this day, months went by without either our appliance being upgraded or getting a quote for a new contract. So it became very clear that we needed to look for another application to take on our data synchronization needs. I heard nothing but raves about Informatica Cloud from our Twin Cities Salesforce user group, which is one of the largest user groups here in the country. So with one quick search, I found Salesforce out on the App Exchange. A trial version installed in our Salesforce development environment within an hour. And by the end of the day, and this is a true story, I had all of our CastIron orchestrations converted and running into Informatica Cloud synchronization tasks. This included the setup of connections to Oracle, our SQL Server customer program database, and we also put together a configuration to take on our flat file information. The Informatica Cloud user interface was so intuitive and easy to use that I barely had to use their very helpful files to complete not only our connections but to set up those tasks. I kept getting 4 error messages, and I really kept waiting to have to do some Google search out there to kind of figure it out. And I really kept waiting for something to be really hard. It never happened. It was as easy as I could have ever imagined it being. Turns out also that there wasn't even a catch in the buying process. Our account executive, who I know is listening on this call today, and I'm glad he can hear this again from me, was very attentive, and the quoting process was fair and quick. The version from our trial setup to the live version was absolutely painless. Informatica has an amazing onboarding process, and that onboarding process for us was very smooth. During that onboarding process, I just happened to mention that I had a data cleansing issue that was really too complex for me, and that Informatica onboarding team sent me the solution to my issue within hours of me asking for help. In addition to our Oracle product file synchronization every night for quoting, we now use the feed for a new campaign initiative object, and we're looking to use that same feed for sales forecasting object that we're custom building in Salesforce. We have also added 3 additional data synchronization tasks to move lead data from flat files into our Salesforce lead object. I'm also currently working on implementing an XML feed of construction project data into that same object. Has gotten around at Uponor that data synchronization is really easy, And we've been approached by, the IT department has been approached by our finance department to see if we can use Informatica Cloud for some finance data needs. I learned a lot of lessons in our 4 years with Salesforce. As a manufacturing company, and I know many of you are listeners out there are in manufacturing, you probably have been in the same position where keeping track of data was always second to producing product. This resulted in spreadsheets and spreadsheets and spreadsheets of data. And most of those spreadsheets of data was data that was already available in our ERP system. Data quality was non-existent. Our sales teams were losing deals because they were using outdated kind of good old boy sales approaches. That first year of our Salesforce implementation, we only had adoption at around 20%. What I found has been so wonderful, particularly with using Informatica, is that Informatica supports their product and really has understood our needs from the very beginning. So using Informatica has allowed our data to be pushed to and from all of our systems, creating a data quality situation that we never would have imagined a year ago. Salesforce adoption now, 4 years later, is now up over 80%. And best of all, it's easy. And I say that kind of lightly because having salespeople armed with data and knowledge is really what wins deals now. Having lunch and a couple of cocktails is still really great, but to have somebody walk in and be able to say, wow, I see that you ordered this, or I see that you put in a technical service request on maybe one of our products. I mean, it just really has made a huge difference, and Informatica and Salesforce has really made that data kind of come alive and be available to those that need it. Thank you so much, everybody, for letting me tell our story today.
This great overview. I have a couple of questions, and I want to remind people that they can ask questions as well in the chat panels. You were telling me yesterday about just how the mobile nature of your sales organization and almost how you took a carrot and a stick approach to get adoption up. It's pretty amazing what you're now doing with Salesforce, and just tell us more about how that works and how the impact on Salesforce and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. In the nature of our business is in the construction industry, and when you first put in Salesforce, you really have this kind of idea that your salespeople, instead of watching television at night, just kind of put in data and learn from data in their Salesforce applications. And what we found out was that was very untrue. We needed to arm our salespeople with mobile applications. 4 years ago, that was almost all mobile telephones. And now, 4 years later, not only are they using Salesforce mobilely on their phones, but we've armed our salespeople and our field technicians with iPads right there out on the field. Those iPads have allowed for not only that very easy segment into getting information about who they're talking to, but really understanding how those people interact with our company and how they interact using data from our ERP suite too, which salespeople, never before have been wanted to log on to an ERP suite. So, reusing those data integrations brought adoption up huge.
That's great. This is a tremendous story, and thank you again for taking the time to share it with everybody on the call. I bring now Mark Murray, who will dive into some of what this looks like from an Informatica and Salesforce perspective, and maybe bring you in as well, Anne Marie as well as Steve, to maybe share some thoughts on what you're seeing in Mark's demo. So with Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of take us through what this looks like within Informatica Cloud.
Aaron, thanks. Anne Marie and Steve, that's great. And Anne Marie, it's the first I've heard the full story. And I'm on customers the same thing all the time, so it's great to hear it, live from a customer who's been so successful.
Well, if I could shout from the treetops how Informatica has made this so much easier for me, I'd be happy to. This is a great product.
Excellent. So I'm going to kind of show that ease of use today. So what we said said today is so true. I've gone to dozens of customers where I've been on conference calls with them, and they'll actually, on the conference call, sign up for an account, and then start it up on the conference call. By the end of the call, say, it's connected, or how I connect. So it's real powerful stuff. But that's how we make it happen. So say data was, bi-directly from Oracle, eBiz, SQL Server. We'll take one of those examples and show you, how it works or how it can work. And I'm going to start off in Salesforce today, and you can see I'm using it. I have it in my schedule for our webinar today. And what I got to do now is, take a look at my accounts. I'm going to build, and I don't have anything loaded. So I have to have, talk to my Salesforce developers or my integration folks. So I'm going to put that on now. And on covers, you're going to see an Informatica pipe that's going to move all the data. But before we get to that, let's go take a look at our Oracle system. And we're going to look at one of our customers. Take a quick look at global communications. Typical things that happen internally. I'm going to drill through and see what my ERP is, what's happening in my ERP system. And I actually need to get this out. I need to get the context of what related information to my account. But it's not Salesforce yet. So I can Informatica Cloud. So Salesforce. I'm going to put on integration hat now. Right. Onto, I can set up Informatica Cloud to actually launch from Salesforce. So to make it even a step easier. Not everyone's going to have access like this, but I can make it that easy. Just take a step out. And while I'm brought into Informatica Cloud. And Salesforce, it's easy to navigate. Right. So really define things. And my list of all the things that happened, one of the things that Anne-Marie didn't mention too is operational controls built in. So if a problem, you're already automatically notified, or your teams are notified that there might have been a problem. So it's all built in. What we need to do is get that account data in. So I'm going to navigate to my data services. Here, what we're going to do is configure a task. That's what happens. We just walk through Wizard and configure task. And the first task I'm going to take us through is syncing that data from Oracle, right, into our Salesforce system. So for perusal, I'm going to edit this. I built this already. So it's a 6-step wizard, and as I walk through, I name it, give it a description, pick the operation, where it comes from. Right? I have a connection built or an object that's going to point to my Oracle system. And if I take a quick look, it's just typical information. As soon as I can connect. You can actually see a preview of the data that you're going to work with. 2, I can join up objects. I can pass SQL through, very flexible. I'm going to put it somewhere, right? I'm going to put it into my object. So this connection, right, same Oracle, but it's for Salesforce, really easy. It went read metadata, right, that's in Salesforce, including any custom objects, right? And we're about 6 custom objects. I'm going to treat the same. I don't really care. I'm going to work with them just as naturally as I would a custom object. Next, filter. One of the things I might want to do is not load my data. So in this case, I just want to load my customers, right? So in my Oracle, they're labeled with organization. And in this case, I just want to pick the ones, and I want to pick ones that have a non-null postal code, right? Very easy, very complex if I need to. And beauty comes down to mapping it, right? We make like a spreadsheet. So here you can see my mapping fields are already built. But if I need to bring over a new field, literally I can just drag and drop. That easy. It's that easy to work with. And in my list, you'll see some very, very common things that happen or that I might need to do to make that. So the business rules here, simple, functions, 150 of them. And my city might come in all uppercase. It might come in mixed case. Well, a simple function called an it-cap that's going to make that look uniform and pretty on my eyes. Right? Very simple. I don't have to code it in Salesforce anymore. I want my countries to be in uppercase. Use the upper function. Hey, data is national. I might want to use an if condition to determine, hey, if it's the U.S., do something. Populate it with the state. If it's not, put the problem there. Right? Real simple. Example of common. Look at my address data. It all comes in one line. Doesn't go nicely into a Billingsley Street, state mode, but these happen to all be related to address. Drag and drop them and concatenate together. right? Really. And if we just take a quick look into one of our functions, we'll just take a quick look. We edit, and we can apply over 150 different functions to my data to do what I need to do. Some of the things I was talking about, I'm sure the Informatica team sent back some rules to apply to data to fix it, right, and plop it right into right into this editor. Right? And now that I've built my rules, tested it a bit, I can get automated. I can go to the step, and I want this to happen on a specific schedule. So and pick a schedule, or I can go to the new one, that. In that, you'll see operational objects here. I can specify who does get a task message, although we have a default. I have the ability to do pre-commands and post-commands. And one thing that Anne-Marie didn't talk about, there are large volumes of data, and I load them very quickly. Well, the radio button, take advantage of the bulk API, right there, automatic, boom, ready to go. So
a question come in from Brad, and I think also be useful for Anne-Marie to comment.
Sure.
First is how do customers manage the WAN traffic between IT infrastructure and InfraCloud, and do you need dedicated lines for that? And the second question, which is sort of equally along the same lines, is what kind of data volumes are involved at Uponor and generally on data volumes around Informatica Cloud?
We have over 90,000 accounts in our Salesforce application. We have kind of an unusual business selling scenario here. So our Oracle Business Suite carries all of our distributor information and those kinds of things. I have to tell you that our standard network setup here at Uponor is more than adequate to take on any of the synchronizations back and forth in the cloud. I don't see any delays. Everything is absolutely fast. The files that I'm using, one, I do use a bulk API. The other one, the flat file, I only use the regular setup for it. I do schedule some things. I have run the DOS post and those kinds of things. I have to tell you, it is lightning fast, and we're not doing anything fancy here at Uponor.
And then from an efficiency perspective, when Informatica bundles up the data to go to Salesforce, it's as efficient as possible. And I'll give you a quick real-life use case. Coach handbags, we just finished a project there, and we 67 million rows of data, and probably totaled about 70 million rows. And we probably pushed that to Salesforce in a 5 or 6 or 7 hour period. And amazing. And in many cases, it was loading 1 million rows through Informatica Cloud. It would the cloud infrastructure would shoot 1 million rows up to Salesforce in a minute, and then Salesforce would take the time to do the processing. So the execution engine from Informatica is extremely fast, and in most cases doesn't really have any impact on the network bandwidth of a company. So I ran that. Let's take a quick look. We'll go to Salesforce, and we're going to go to our accounts, and we're just going to click Go. All right, and all records got loaded, and there was about 15 or 1,600. But we'll find our global. What's our current? Our global communications, if I spell it correctly. We're working with. We'll click into them. So my user is either on his iPhone, his iPad, right, or he's on his laptop, and he has all the information he needs, right? And we'll click down here, and it's current now. Later on, something's going to happen on the back end, so we're going to pop back over to Oracle, and we'll edit our record. So we're going to go into our profile. Actually, pick up. We'll change the year established. We're going to make this 2012, right? So we change the record. We'll save it, and then there's a process going to kick off, but we're going to actually do it manually now. But note that things are changing all during the day. We go to Informatica Cloud. I'm going to go to services. Typically, this would be on a schedule, but I'm going to fire it off for us. And we'll kick off. Now, this particular task is only looking for changes. All right, so we have to go try to find anything that's changed since the limit ran. And let's see, did it run already? It already ran. It found the one record we changed, because I'm the only one on the system right now. If we go to Salesforce, now here's established since, and if we just refresh our screen, automatically there in a couple of seconds. And there are all kinds of ways. I can actually put a button on the screen here and kick off that task via a REST API. So I don't have to automate it through a schedule. I can push a button to get things done too. And just to show you the things that Anne-Marie talked about, so at developing these things, you might run into a problem, right? It happens, right? Maybe there's an error that happened. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to do a task, how to relate objects. It's easy. Watch this. The support, open up a ticket. Tell them is. And typically an hour or less, you get a phone call, an email, whatnot from Informatica. It's that fast. And recently our team actually won one of those industry-wide awards for support, which is a great accolade to our support team. So that's about all I was going to show today, but just show you about ease of use.
Yeah, I mean, a quick, I guess, question for you, Anne-Marie, or Steve, just to bring you back into the discussion. Are there any other use cases that Mark hasn't covered here that you've seen, Informatica Cloud come in and be used for? Pretty similar to what the main ones you're seeing around Oracle and ERP integration?
We get really creative. We find uses for lots of applications to do things. And Informatica really hasn't been, that we intended to use it for. What I find to be amazing is now we're saying, okay, what other flat files, what other XML feed, what can we do between other systems, maybe not with Salesforce and those kinds of things. I think the point that I'm trying to make is if we have a scenario where somebody said, I have to move data from one place to another, and it's this kind of thing, and it's in this kind of type, we'd offer up Informatica immediately, and it wouldn't take us long to figure out a way to move it, synchronize it.
Awesome. Steve, any thoughts or insights on what you see with clients? I know, for example, opportunity to order is a rare use case with between Salesforce and ERP. Any other?
A lot of the calculations, a lot of the financials get figured out and need to get pushed out to the the commissions, the sale, any of that kind of information. Sometimes get calculated either in the ERP or in the Salesforce, and then they get moved around over to the financial systems, which sounds like Anne-Marie is moving that direction as well. Another one I think Mark touched on quick was the REST API. Very powerful, very easy to set up. There's sometimes some huge volume that you not necessarily always want to share, and we're getting some requests to that REST API. Hey, we don't want to move all 20 million rows into Salesforce, and sometimes those requests can be dynamic, even all the way out to the portal side. So when they need that type of information about them, it goes through, gets across, finds that information quickly, and brings it back just about that customer through all those rows.
A question for you, Mark, before we bring it back to the kind of the slides and hand it over to you, Steve, to tell us more about what you're seeing. Question on, does this type of integration force the creation of a new account in Salesforce? And have you used this to integrate to a staging table in Salesforce?
I was talking. In this, I was upserting, so I was creating new accounts if they weren't there, and I'll update them if they are there. You can, if you want, create a staging table. There's no question about it. So we're going to treat custom on standard objects the same, right? If they're related or not, relate them together. So it's pretty the ultimate flexibility, either way you choose or either way you need. And Marie said it's not just cloud only, so you might need to stage a table or something or whatnot locally and process it and then push it back up. So not in Salesforce directly, go to staging tables in Salesforce, but local staging tables, right, or local applications that you might want to work with.
Okay, great. All right, well, that's a great overview. I just want to bring it back to, I want to spend a quick second just highlighting the architecture, and then I'll hand it over to you, Steve, to kind of close us out with some of the things that you're doing and some a real special offer you're interesting with this webinar. So if I can just bring it back to me as the presenter here, I will endeavor to do that. So Mark didn't really dive into what's happening behind the scenes, but I want to do it at a very, very high level. So as he mentioned, you can literally be on a call with us, or or just go out to the website anytime. You go to informaticacloud.com and sign up for a trial. And what happens is the first thing you do is you'll be asked to we're going to have the secure agent run, which is really the execution engine of Informatica Cloud. That's going to go and sit either on-premise if it's doing ERP type of integration, back office on-premise integration. Some of our customers are increasingly hosting the agent in the cloud-based system, but that's really the key is that agent is doing the heavy lifting. And you see the dotted line is everything Mark showed you is creating and then sending the instructions down to the agent to do the work. And then importantly, data did not move through or get hosted in or cached in Informatica Cloud. Data moving bidirectionally to and from systems, which is why these are, the real-time nature of the execution is happening. So very important to just understand is that in this case, the use case we've been talking today is data is moving bidirectionally between Salesforce and Oracle EBS. So on that, you would add, Mark, that your customers ask you or Steve, or even on how you've run the agent?
And ask me is, what ports do you travel out of? Can you configure for a proxy server? Things like that. All right. Yep. Standard SOAP messaging.
Yep. We started locally with the trial and then moved the agent out onto the Windows server. You can choose either locally as a backup, which was recommended by onboarding staff. We use proxy servers here, so we configure that. It was relatively easy to figure out. When we ran into a little trouble with our Windows server, the community documentation helped us out in just a few minutes.
Great. All right, cool. I just wanted to provide a little bit of that context for those of you who are thinking about on this webinar or as you're watching this recording to actually go and get started. So informaticacloud.com, and you can go and do that and multitask. So with, Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you to give us a little bit of an overview of how you approach some of these challenges and some of the best practices you can share with us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Darren. Well, this is Steve Danefeld with Aetherios. I am a senior account executive and out there doing a lot of the discovery and working with customers as they think about moving to the platform. And who we are is basically, we're a Cloud Alliance Gold Partner of Salesforce, and we're also a partner of Informatica, and so thanks everybody for having us on here. We're one-operated partners, and from a customer satisfaction, and what we really see out there in the field is, we work with folks that are trying to figure out how do I eat the elephant a little bit, and work with them from both an advisory perspective and then a staging and putting together their plans. And so how do we do that, and kind of what makes us a little different that I think folks would want to know about us at Aetherios is, we're very much on that technical architecture side, and that bullet there kind of shows that there's a lot of different partners and there's a lot of configuration and there's a lot of business process thought that needs to go into how do we move forward to this hybrid of both on-premise ERP and into the cloud, not only from a architectural perspective but also from a business process. And that's the high-level value of what we're bringing to the table. And so as you can see below, we just kind of put a couple labels on here of some of the large folks that are out there that are making that move that we've worked with, and we're bringing them along.
Hey, Steve, we've talked a lot about Oracle E-Business Suite today. Are there systems that you guys really work with day in, day out, or anything specific around manufacturing that you see?
Yeah, so we've seen all types, right? Everybody's got a different ERP, and they've set it up. So we run into a lot of SAP. We're very familiar with working with various SAP teams, understanding how to get that put in place. We've talked to AS400s and get all the way down even to the DB level if necessary, or pulling that out into the SQLs. So those are the other ones that are very popular. And right now, an interesting thing, and depends on where people are coming from and what they're migrating from, is we've worked with folks that they've built a lot of their business process in an enterprise level Lotus Notes environment, and have a little bit of an ERP, and trying to move kind of both pieces at once, getting off and into the Salesforce platform from a Lotus Notes perspective, getting off of that, and then obviously reconnecting and finding that link back into the ERPs.
Interesting. I remember Salesforce had a campaign of helping customers move off of who are stuck in Lotus land. So it's interesting into that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, it had its day, just like everything else. So a bit about what are our total service offerings. I just want to make sure everybody is aware that, there's both things that go on in manufacturing. Obviously, there's an organizational change management. So we have some advisory services here. What is your operational strategy? How is this change going to take place? Because a lot of those business processes are going to be sort of dramatically changed. Your ability to become more efficient is going to change rapidly, and there's going to be some things that have to be figured out. And then also from our technical services perspective, really we are platform experts. We run across all the clouds that are Salesforce is out there from a platform, do a lot of the custom work as well because of our technical background, and you can even provide a lot of that architectural integration, and especially now, really coming along with a lot of the mobile apps. There's some stuff out of the box. There's some stuff that needs to be created mobile, and kind of thing. So that's our total package, and our best practices along the manufacturing is in the gambit of how people need to be brought along, what pieces need to be brought in first, and then really work with them from a long-term vision and strategy to get that entire social enterprise brought up and that hybrid infrastructure put in place. In here, just how do you attack something as big as a manufacturing? It's a company sometimes have been around for 100 years, and getting those mindsets. We've got a very proven methodology that we provide to our customers. We work with you. We go through some very deliberate steps, but at the same time, all this looks very waterfall, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. We build it in a very agile way, but we really want to help everybody understand that scope and what their goals are, and make sure that it's measurable. So this is just sort of a basic methodology. It's proven throughout the life cycle of what things can be delivered on the Salesforce platform with a good start point and a good end point, and then we can build that roadmap together and make sure that everything is governed and predictable, and we get where we need to be. So it kind of leads into what are some of the integration issues that you're facing, and so if you're doing any double entry, would be one thing that if you've got they're entering it here and it's getting over, has to be handed off to somebody else in either a paper form or an Excel spreadsheet, any kind of information. If you're doing any double entry, then you are a prime candidate to figure out how to optimize your solution. I don't think that surprises anybody, but interesting that we're reading out of this. I'm on the manufacturing floor, and I need to get that information. It's available. There are ways to do that and get that information flowing across and making sales, customer service, order entry, all of that much more available.
So the question on that, are you also working with customers who have multiple instances of Salesforce, and they want to even get a single view across those Salesforce instances?
Yes, there's obviously some. We've run into that where they're, again, you can, depending on how siloed and informational, but there's still usually a roll-up at the platform level. So we have worked with various customers to, they almost treat each other like partners, but within their own Salesforce org. So yeah, we can definitely work with them to find how to put that holistic organizational put together, so while the departments can run independently and they have their own systems, and they may even be talking to different ERPs, how does that roll up holistically into a master org, so to speak, or get that information to be passed back and forth so that everyone else can kind of see what's going on.
Maria, it sounds like at Uponor you guys are pretty centralized. It was really, IT was involved early on in bringing in Salesforce and rolling it out. Is that right?
That's right. We have our own team of analysts and those kinds of things to go out and kind of build requirements. We bring in a couple of consultants to help us with the first pass at Salesforce, and now we are also using a couple of partners to help us with projects. They're usually very impressed to hear right away that we've made that investment and commitment to Informatica to move data back and forth.
Right. Back to
Yeah, so I think what we want to kind of end on, and if there's some other questions, and hand it back to you, is, what we want to offer folks who are thinking about it, they've seen the tool, they're asking these questions, is, we want to provide for you a discovery consultation, for free. Contact us after this, and, we'll bring the right experts on the phone and get an idea of what you're facing and how you're facing it, and try to come up with, get the discussion started. We actually call it a discussion document. This is what we heard. This is the scope. Here would be the effort and an estimated cost. Take that information, work with your executive sponsors, work with your executives top-down perspective, and help get that information and moving and innovating your company a little bit forward. We're looking to help those champions who know this is where they need to go, but it's an area that's very large. We're very comfortable talking at all the right levels and get information put together. So
that's a lot of customers, organizations. They sort of first start with hand-coded approach to this problem. Emery talked about actually moving off of another, tool-based approach, but going in and often moving customers from hand coding to a tool, or are you finding that they're moving off of one system like Emery and Upinar did to another? Any kind of trend on that front? I mean, that you typically run into around integration, in the current state?
Well, at this point, I think it depends. I think every organization is a little bit different. So we have run into where they've kind of created their own what we call in-house solution that they need to migrate off of, or they've outgrown a certain solution and they're kind of on a small tier application and they need to get to the ERP and they never really could. So I think you run into all types of that. And the interesting thing is, while we've talked a lot about moving the data and a bidirectional integration, the Informatica tool is fantastic to help get you off of a legacy system. Even though it might be a one-time move, it's a great way to get that data mapping done, use the power of the Informatica, and actually push it into Salesforce for the one time, and maybe that's where your new customer master is going to live if it's not in the ERP. That'd be the best example, but you're going to have some migrations and you're going to have some integrations, and I think using the tool appropriately, you're going to see all kinds, and you're going to find it effective no matter how you're going to use the tool.
Yeah, that we do definitely see. People are often drawn to hand coding because they the sense is they can do it quickly, write some scripts and move on. But it's really maintenance. It's the maintenance over time, the support. And Emery talked a lot about that. How many people do you have supporting Informatica? How does that work at your company? What kind of resources do you have to allocate to this part of your Salesforce implementation?
It's just me. So one. And so if that is an attestment to having a need for something that allows for quick mapping of data, and sometimes, when you were talking to business and looking for use cases, when you start those conversations, and as Steve kind of talked about, you tell that discovery and you say, here's what I need, and usually the response is, I have nobody to do that for us. Well, here at Upinar now, with the power of one, Informatica has allowed for that simplicity and often helps me work through the questions that businesses posed. We map it this way, or we clean our data that way, or we do that one-time push of data to get off of that legacy system. Where can we go from here? And we take it steps at a time. You've offered a very simple that moves fast. So small teams really it's a great product for small teams.
Probably nobody knows more about the hand coding objection than you. Any thoughts on hand coding versus a tool-based approach or a cloud-based integration approach?
The hand coding, you know what you're going to get. The person's going to leave, and you're going to be left with hand code, and you're not going to be able to automate it. You have to maintain it. With a tool Informatica, right? Informatica, it's always there. There's support out there, right? There's partners that know it. So start on the right foot. Don't go down that path. That's going to be replicatable, automated, and has operational control and auditing. There's audit around it also, so you know who's done when, where, right? And multi-user, so you don't have to be the only one. You can workload.
Yeah, that's right. So I do want to bring it back to you, Steve, just to close out. As we wrap up today's discussion, first and foremost, we've talked a few times about, just don't wait to integrate. A lot of organizations, they think about, hey, great, we're moving to the cloud, we're going to adopt Salesforce. They get very excited, and they think, oh, we'll put off integration into phase 2 or phase 3. I've seen most success is where integration is thought through early. You've engaged with the partner like an Ethereos, and you've really created an overall strategy here, your short, medium, and long-term strategy. And it's very, very easy to get started with the tool. so there shouldn't be much of an excuse other than just, I think the perception often is that integration is hard and let's put it off. So we definitely see, greater adoption when integration is thought through and considered as early as possible. So I want to just conclude with, Steve talked about the assessment, and this is a pretty amazing opportunity to really engage with some experts. And here's the contact information for the Aetherios team. And so Steve, so just real quick, so what happens when someone reaches out to you? What's the process?
Yeah, so when you reach out to us, obviously we'll take that information. Someone will turn around and we'll contact you. We will work with you to set up an initial discovery call and a meeting. And what we'll do is we'll kind of bring our best practices, learn a little bit about your business and what you're trying to accomplish, obviously. And then we've got the questions that need to be asked and work with you and putting together what it is and what it isn't. And then even if some of that information is missing, we can even follow up and get the right people in the room or kind of tell you who you need to maybe go talk to. We may not know the person, but we know the type of person within your organization you may need to get these questions from. And then you've kind of got that starting point to here data is and here's what you're trying to accomplish, and we can help you, champion that along.
And just a last question that's come in here. I think it's mainly for you, Anne-Marie, but Mark, you might have some context and content information here too. The question is Informatica Cloud integration easy enough to have some business users do some self-service work? And honestly, I did not write this question. So deal with that at your company, Anne-Marie, and then maybe Mark from what you see.
Yeah, I do. We brought in consultants to help us with different things, but when we got Informatica, the consultants now, we bring those processes, we let them help us with the hard stuff. What we give back to business now is these integrations and the mapping, and very quickly, we do have some business power users here at Uponor, and this is the first product that I've been able to even consider trusting them to say, you're not going to get frustrated with this, it's pretty easy, map the data. We'll set up the connections for you. And actually, if you have a power user that understands where your data is coming from, if it's an Oracle view, it's sitting out on a share drive, if it's out on a server someplace that needs a permission and password, those things are fairly easy. And documentation already provided with Informatica is very easy to follow. You won't have to build your own documentation to let those business power users learn the system.
And did you use any of the YouTube videos that are out there, or any of those multimedia?
I did, and I was, I'm very impressed by your community. So the support community is pretty amazing, right into that Salesforce kind of quality. So ask that question, search that question, it's right out there, and the variety of ways to see the help files. YouTube videos, knowledge-based documentation, manuals, used all of them.
Excellent.
I mean, that brings us to the top of the hour and wraps up today's discussion. I just wanted to remind everyone of today's speakers and thank you all for taking us, taking the time to share your thoughts and experiences, especially you, Anne-Marie, and Steve. Do want to remind everyone to, definitely, don't put this off. Go and get started with the trial of Informatica Cloud and reach out to the team at Aetherios and take advantage of this offer. I think it's a great opportunity. Stay at aetherios.com. So that concludes today's webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and have a great day.
For joining us today. This concludes today's web conference. You may now disconnect.